Hey guys, it's Adrian, and today I'm taking a look at Lenovo's brand new Legion 9i gaming laptop. Now, this is considered their Halo laptop, and it comes with up to an i9-13980HX CPU and up to an RTX 4090, but I do have the 4080 model right now. Now, I also own the Lenovo Legion 8th generation desktop, and that has an i9-13900KF and an RTX 4080. So later on, I'm going to just show some gaming benchmarks between both computers, and then you can see exactly how much of a difference there is. Now, Lenovo did not send this laptop to me for review. I had to pay for this full price with my own money. So let's take a closer look and you can see if this is worth it for you as well. In the box, we have the Lenovo Legion 9i laptop, a 140 watt charging brick with a USB Type-C connector, and there's also a 330 watt charger for more power, along with some ceramic keycaps, scissors, a removal tool, and cleaning cloth. The Legion 9i laptop comes in two configurations, but both configurations have the Intel i9-13980HX, and you can get it with either an RTX 4090 or the RTX 4080, which is the model that I have. You have two RAM configurations, either 32 gigs or 64 gigs, and it is dual channel RAM, and currently mine is running at 5600 mega transfers. Now you can have up to a 2TB Gen 4 SSD as well. There's also only one screen option, which is this 16-inch screen with a 3.2K resolution. It is a non-touch mini LED screen running at 165 Hz with 3 milliseconds response time. Now, the design of the Legion 9i is a pretty standout design. You know, there's not a lot of laptop lids that look like this. So we have an aluminum top case along with an aluminum magnesium bottom case, and then this, forged type of carbon fiber lid, which again, has a really unique look. Either you're probably gonna like it or you're gonna hate it. Now, I do like it. It's better than it being just all black, I think, and it's a pretty matte type of finish on here, and it doesn't really pick up fingerprints, so that's a plus. On the right side of the laptop, we have a privacy switch to disable the webcam. There's also a USB Type-C port located right next to it, and further along we have a USB Type-A port. The left side of the laptop has an SD card reader along with a 3.5mm headphone jack. The rear of the laptop houses the Ethernet port. We have another USB-A 3.2 Gen 1 port. We have two Thunderbolt 4 ports capable of DisplayPort 1.4 with power delivery 3.0 up to 140 watts. There's an HDMI 2.1 port. For those of you who need to power separate displays, you can power up to 3 additional monitors using the HDMI 2.1 port and the USB-C ports as well. The rear port icons can also be turned on or off just to make it easier when you're plugging in things in a dark room. The top lid of the laptop has both the Legion logo and Lenovo logo located at diagonal ends. Now, the Legion logo can be lit up, or you could just turn it completely off for a more stealth look. The webcam housing sticks out just slightly, which makes it really easy to open and close the lid with just one finger. Once the laptop is open, at the very top we have a large venting area along with the power button, which doubles as a fingerprint scanner. We also have a full-size keyboard along with a numpad. Thank God for that, because I can only ever consider a laptop that has a numpad, and it's fairly nicely spaced out. And then at the very bottom towards the left, we have that glass touchpad. Now, it's wide enough, but the vertical height is a little bit, it's a little bit narrow. It may not be for everyone, but I generally just use my laptops with a mouse anyway. The underside of the laptop has raised feet to help with ventilation, along with 8 screws allowing you access to the internals if you wanted to add additional RAM or storage. Since the power button also doubles as a fingerprint scanner, if you press and hold the power button while you're turning the computer on, it's just automatically going to pass that credential to log you into Windows automatically. By the way, there's no type of cutout anywhere on the laptop if you wanted to use any type of laptop lock. Now, the weight is also fairly manageable, coming in at around 2.5 kilograms or 5.6 pounds. You can see it's really easy for me to just, manipulate it even with one hand to just kind of slide it into a bag. All right, so I've removed the 8 screws, removed the back cover, and we can see that huge 99.99 watt hour battery. Now, there is a covering here for the SSD drive. I've removed 4 screws, and once you do that, you have access to add in additional storage if you like. The RAM sticks are actually on the other side of the motherboard here, so you would actually have to pull everything to get access to that. So really isn't ideal. Just order it with how much RAM you would like. While the Legion 9i laptop scored well in Cinebench, obviously on the desktop version it did much better, coming in at a 52% improvement for GPU, 19% improvement for multi-core, and 2.4% for single core. The Puget score for DaVinci Resolve had the Lenovo Legion desktop version performing 43% better. In 3D Mark, the Legion desktop also scored higher. in max threads for the CPU test, coming in at 29% better. In the Speedway score, the desktop version scored about 49% better, and in Port Royal it scored about 48% better. And Time Spy Extreme coming in at 43% better. Running Crystal Mark on the 1TB Gen 4 drive, I had a read speed of around 6,600 megabytes per second and a read speed of around 5,000 megabytes per second. So the Legion 9i performed wonderfully for gaming, and I was able to play pretty much every game at max settings or close to max settings without any issue, running at the native 3.2K resolution. And the mini LED screen on here gets super bright. Games just look really amazing on here. So here are a few benchmarks in a couple of popular games, and I'll also put the benchmarks from the Legion desktop so you can see just how much of a difference there is. Overall, the Legion 9i did fantastic at gaming. You're pretty much going to be able to run any type of game that you want at max settings or close to max settings. Now, the only thing that I noticed is that, yeah, it did get a little bit warm when I was gaming for extended periods, and it does get loud. Is it the loudest laptop I've heard? No, not by a long shot. But let's take a closer look at, kind of the thermals and what the noise levels sound like. By the way, if you're finding this review helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. It truly does help me out a ton, guys. But let's get back into it. The laptop's been on for about 15 minutes. It's on the performance mode and it's plugged in. And here's just a look at what the ambient temperatures look like as I go over the keyboard. Then the touchpad here, you can see it's noticeably cooler at around 25, 26 degrees. And then just a little bit hotter, of course, up here. Lenovo mentions that the laptop does have liquid cooling, but it's only applicable to the VRAM on the GPU, and it only kicks in if the GPU temperature goes over 84 degrees Celsius. Now, I don't know how much of a difference it actually makes. From what I've seen online, people are saying, it makes a bit of a difference, or the difference is fairly negligible. But from just what I've seen in terms of the gaming performance, whatever they've done, whether it's a big difference or a slight difference, the gaming performance is really good on here. The laptop's on and it's set to the balanced performance mode, and there's really not much fan noise. Every once in a while the fans will ramp up just slightly, but it's very quiet. Now, by contrast, when you're gaming, it gets quite loud. Here's what that sounds like. The 16-inch mini LED screen was just a pure joy to use, and it gets plenty bright, coming in at a max of 1200 nits. Now, it's capable of 10-bit, it's 165 Hz. While there is a little bit of screen flex, anytime I was opening or closing the lid, it didn't feel wobbly at all. It felt very planted. They've also done a pretty good job with the friction on the hinge, so you can see I could just set it to any type of angulation and it pretty much just stays. Now, if I go all the way back, you can see that's about the limit till the entire laptop rocks. Again, it's plenty enough. I don't really need the screen to go that much further back, but something to keep in mind. In the Vantage software, you have 3 preset modes to pick from in terms of performance. So there's a quiet mode where it's going to be, very quiet. It's on this mode right now, so the fan noise is very low, and it's just going to give you, kind of less power draw. There's also a balance mode, and then finally a performance mode, which is where I usually have it. Now, you're going to get max performance, but it does require you to have the laptop plugged in at all times. You can always tell which mode you're in because you could just take a look at the power button. So if the ring around the power button is blue, well, you're in quiet mode. If it's white, you're in balance mode. And if it's red, you're in performance mode. And you actually don't need to go into the Vantage software to change it. You can just hit the function key and Q to cycle through them. Super handy. I also think they've done a fantastic job with the lighting, and I know some people love RGB and some just hate it. I always like having the option because I could just turn it off if I don't want it, and the laptop looks great with it on or off. And of course, in the Vantage software, you can go ahead and customize, different RGB zones, or you could just have, a fully uniform color. But it's very well done. It's a nice soft glow and effect, and I just like having it on all the time. And just like with changing the performance mode, you can easily cycle through the different lighting modes using the function key and the spacebar key. Per key RGB lighting is available if you really want to customize the keyboard lighting. Whenever you hit the function key, you can see that it only lights up the keys that you can actually use, which is super handy to have. The typing experience on here is something that really surprised me because I generally use a low profile mechanical keyboard, and I'm a little bit picky about the typing experience, but actually with the 1.5mm travel distance on here, it felt very satisfying to type on here. You know, it's just really pleasant. I don't think you're gonna have a problem with this keyboard. Lenovo also includes 8 ceramic keycaps that you can use to swap out if you want to change the look of your keyboard, and there's also 16 switches if anything goes wrong. Now, realistically, I'm probably not gonna use these. These seem a little bit slippery for me, and I kind of like the consistent look of the keyboard, but it is there if you want it. Let's talk about battery life, and this is one area where this doesn't excel. So it has a 99.99 watt hour battery, which is the largest you can get if you still want to take it on an airplane. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I'm buying a laptop with these type of specs, I want to run it at max specs, you know, max performance, you know, high screen brightness. I always have Wi-Fi on, Bluetooth on. And because of that, you know, I'm really lucky to have, you know, between like 1 to 2 hours, depending on what I'm doing. You know, if I'm mostly browsing, watching YouTube, whatnot, yeah, I would say between 1 to 2 hours. And if I'm going to be gaming, then it's going to be way less than that, maybe even under an hour, again, depending on screen brightness. Obviously, you can improve it by, you know, changing it to a lower performance mode, but then you're kind of handicapping it. I mean, what's the point? Then just buy a laptop with, you know, medium type specs that's gonna sip power, but this just drinks it. Now, if you enable the rapid charge feature in the Vantage software, you can go from 0 to 70 in about half an hour, and it takes, you know, closer to a full hour to get all the way to 100%. There's a couple other options in the Vantage software, so you do have an option to extend the laptop's battery health, and this is especially helpful if you're someone who's going to have it plugged in all the time when you're using it, which is how I use it, and it's going to limit the battery charge to about 75 to 80%. To keep the laptop battery topped up, we have 2 included power bricks, so there is a smaller 140 watt, which is great for, you know, taking on the go, and then there's also the larger 330 watt, which is what's going to give you maximum performance out of the laptop. By the way, you can also go into the BIOS and set the laptop up so that you could just plug in any type of USB cable while the laptop is off, and it's just going to charge your phone up, which came in super handy for me while I was on vacation waiting in the airport. The speakers are also not too bad on here, so there's 2 2-watt speakers, and they actually get fairly loud without too much distortion, but here's what that sounds like. Alright, this is what the webcam and the microphone pickup sounds like. Now, obviously, I'm in a well-lit room, so it's ideal lighting conditions, but I'm just going to go ahead and cut all the lights to give you an idea if you were to use this somewhere a little bit more dimly lit. Alright, so I've gone ahead and cut all of the, you know, really bright white lights, so I just have, you know, regular overhead lights on my ceiling, and it's actually not that bad, you know, a little bit more grainy in terms of the footage, but still very usable. One thing I do wish the laptop had was some kind of shortcut keys. Now, while there isn't room for that, they do give us the option to, you know, hit function and F9, and there's, you know, 3 different apps that you can select for a quick selection, but you can also set it so that if you just hit function and F9 really quickly, it opens up, you know, an app of your choosing. I just have it open up Notepad because I like to take notes. So pretty nice touch, even though we don't have, you know, dedicated quick launch keys. So the Legion 9i gaming laptop really does well in pretty much every area that I look for. Because anytime I'm looking for a laptop, I'm usually happy with, you know, 80 to 90% of the features, but then there's always one thing missing, like, you know, maybe it doesn't have a numpad and I need a numpad, or maybe the port selection is just not as plentiful as I would like. And this seems to be the perfect balance of pretty much everything. If I really had to nitpick something, obviously battery life, that's gonna always be an issue anytime you have, you know, something high performance like this. But that's kind of similar to me buying, you know, a high performance sports car and complaining about the gas mileage. I kind of know what I'm getting myself into with this, and I'm perfectly fine with, you know, just having this plugged in all the time, kind of like a desktop replacement. Now, at the time of this video, the 4080 version that I have here that comes with 32 gigs of RAM and a 1TB Gen 4 drive comes in at around $3,150 US. If you wanted to get the 4090 version, it's going to be closer to $4,000 US, and I do believe that comes with 64 gigs of RAM. So yeah, it is a pricey laptop. Hopefully it goes on sale a little bit for, you know, Boxing Day or maybe sometime early in the new year, but I'm going to leave some links down below for you to check it out. And if you are interested in picking this up, please consider using my affiliate links. It really does help me out a lot, and it'll take this thing out of paying full price for this thing. Yeah, overall, I'm super happy with the performance so far. It's been very reliable. The typing experience on here is awesome. I'm blown away by the screen. It's not an OLED screen, but it's very, very good considering it's not an OLED screen. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think of the Legion 9i gaming laptop. Would you ever consider something like this? You know, are you a fan of the look? do you find it, just way too overpriced for what it is? Initially, that's what I thought, but after using it a bit more, I just really appreciate the reliability, the design, the portability. It's really an awesome laptop. Now, if you're considering the desktop version of this, I'm going to leave a link to my review up here. And as always, guys, if you found this video helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. It really does help me out quite a bit, and I truly do appreciate it. But I'll see you in the next one soon.